Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machan Vayra online smicha. I would like to discuss halacha and hilchah Shabbos. This halacha is brought in different places in Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, and between the two places we could come to a conclusion that the issue that we're going to discuss has more than the case that we're going to discuss has more than one issue, and that is making a cloth or making a towel wet on Shabbos for whatever reason. Alter Rebbe in Siman Shin Lamed Daled Seif Chav Gimel. We'll start with the later place where he discusses this first. Siman Shin Lamed Daled speaks about Rahman al if a fire breaks out in Shabbos, and what could you do to stop the fire, even though a kiboy, extinguishing a fire, is a malacha. So amongst the conversation in Siman Shin Lamed Daled Seif Chav Gimel, the Alter Rebbe says, Talis she'achas bar ha'or mitzad echad, if there's a garment that caught on fire on one side of the garment, mutar litan aleh mashkin, you're allowed to put water on the other side of the garment, rachik tzas min ha'or. You're not allowed to extinguish the fire because that's a malacha. But if you want to save the other half of the garment, you could put water on the other side of the garment, as long as it's a little far away from the fire. As long as you're not extinguishing the fire right now, you're just preventing that when the fire reaches that area, it will be wet and the fire will extinguish. You're allowed to do so. Because, and the Alter Rebbe says, even though there's nothing dividing there's no real divider in between, and therefore the fire will definitely reach there. Says the Alter Rebbe, since right now you're not extinguishing any fire, it's going to happen by itself. You're allowed to do that. Says the Alter Rebbe, B'ameh dvarim amurim, when is this correct? When are you allowed to put water? This is talking about a case of a fire. When are you allowed to put water on a garment to save the garment? It's b'mashkin she'ena malabnin. Only if you are putting liquid that don't clean the garment. So what I said before, water now has to be changed. It has to be, you're allowed to put liquid that doesn't clean the garment, you're allowed to do it to save the garment. Avo mayim oishar mashkin hamalabnim. If you want to save the garment by putting water there or any other liquid that causes libun, that causes cleaning to the beged, asur litein ala talis. Even though there's a fire, and Chazal are very concerned, adam bol al mamayne, a person is very hastened to try to save any belongings, anything that belongs to him. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to put water on a garment that's partially caught on fire to save the other end. Mishum, for two reasons, says the Alter Rebbe. Putting water on a garment is a gzeira schita. Putting water in water, you might squeeze the garment. And there's a second problem. The second problem is mishum shriyas habeged zeo kibusay. It's funny, this guy right now is trying to save the beged from fire, from being burned. But putting water on the beged has an issue that you're cleaning the beged. Soaking a beged in water cleans it. And cleaning is a different malacha malabein. Okay, so now we see that water on a beged has two problems. Problem number one is if there's a lot of water, you might squeeze the beged to get the water out, which is really not the typical schita. The typical schita is squeezing a grape to get the juice out, but it's an extension for schita, from the Isser of schita. And then there is a second issue. The second issue is of that putting water in a beged is cleaning it, which is a problem of malabing. All right, now that I introduced both of them, I want you to look earlier in Siman Shin Beis Seif Chav Aleph. So the Alter Rebbe speaks about a garment that it became dirty and it's schmutzig. It became dirty. So in a case like that, Ein oimrim boy shiliyosei zu kibusoi. In that case, if you're going to put a little water to get rid of the schmutz that's on the beged, you're not soaking it in water. In that case, you're allowed to put on mayim mu'atim. You're allowed to put in a small amount of water to get rid of the schmutz. Avaloi merubim, but you can't put a lot, because merubim would be the issue of schita. If too much water, you might squeeze it, and a little water is not a problem. Is not a problem. Says the Alter Rebbe, the yesh choil kinalzeh, and there are those that argue, and there are those that say it's not only because the beged is dirty. So because the beged is dirty, that's when you're not allowed to, and you're only allowed to put in mayim moatim. There are some opinions that say that even a beged she'ein olav shum lichluch. This is actually a Ramah. The Ramah brings both opinions. Does this Isser only apply in a dirt? Does the heter apply only on a beged meluchlich? But how about a beged, the beged that's not dirty? So there is an opinion that says av beged she'ein olav shum lichluch. There's nothing dirty about it. There's no reason to clean it. Nevertheless, if you put water on that keli, on that beged, it's also considered cleaning. Because by putting water, it makes it look better. And that's a form. Sometimes people clean a clean garment just to make it better. So therefore, you're not allowed to put on any water or any liquid that makes it look better. Because it's happening anyways. It's a psik reisha. So the Alter Rebbe brings two opinions. If it's only a dirty beged, you're allowed to put a little water, but a non-dirty, clean beged, maybe that's not that's not allowed. A clean beged, it's not kibus. The second opinion says even to put water on the clean beged is also a problem. And the Alter Rebbe concludes, because it's a suffik isur d'oraisa, is yesh lachus devreim lahachmir b'shel Torah. And then the Alter Rebbe goes on, it doesn't make a difference if it's a colored garment or a white garment. Because even b'tzvuim, even a colored garment, you're cleaning it. And these are the discussion in one sif where the Alter Rebbe speaks about making a garment wet on Shabbos. So the primary issues that we have is schita and kibus. So I want to discuss two practical cases where this plays a role. Obviously, when something spills on the floor and you want to wipe it up. So how do you wipe it up if you're going to make the beged or the garment, the shmata dirty? So here the Shulchan Aruch says, and it's the Alter Rebbe quotes it also. The Alter Rebbe at the end of this sif says that if you're doing it not derech shriya, it's based on the Ramah. The Ramah says when you're putting water on a beged just in a way to clean your hands, shenesinas mayim ala beged nasis b'derech lichluch. So you're actually making the beged, the tissue or the towel dirty by cleaning your hands, and you're putting on a towel. So therefore, it's fakert. It's not an issue of kibus. You're actually ruining it. You're making it more dirty. And the only issue you still have to be careful is not to put a lot of water on the garment, because put on the shmata, because when you do that, even though kibus it's not, because you're doing it to clean your hands, you're actually making the towel dirty, but you might have the second issue of kibus, of schita. Okay, so that's a shmata, and obviously the same happens, the Alter Rebbe discusses when you have a becher, or you have a small glass that you want to wipe out, make sure it's dry. So over here, even though it's small amount of water, because it's tight to get the napkin or tight to get the beged in there, the shmata in there, there's more chance that you might be schita. So remember, every time you're dealing with a beged or a shmata on water on Shabbos, there's two issues. An interesting shaila, which is discussed in Achronim, Nebuch, when people are sick and somebody has a very bad headache or he's sweating, one of the things people do is they make they water a shmata and they put it on their head, a cold shmata or sometimes a heated shmata for different reasons. I'm not talking about the question of refuah and Shabbos. I'm talking about if you're allowed to water the shmata, so to put it on your head to make a headache go away or whatever it is. Is there an issue with watering of the shmata? Now, obviously, to put a lot of water, you still have the concern of schita. But when you're not putting too much water, is that allowed? So some of the Achronim say that for a chayla, you would be allowed to put water on a shmata, on a garment, on the towel, and it's better if you put it on a clean towel, because if you put it on a dirty towel, then when you put the water on there, there's the second problem, that you're actually washing the towel. If you put it lechatchila on the clean towel, the kibus there won't be, and on top of that, you'll put it not enough to be a concern of schita. That could be good. From the other hand, you have two other options. Option number one is put the water. Ask a goy to put the water on the towel, because then it's obviously a yid is not getting involved with the isser schita or the isser of libum. Another option you have is use a towel that's wet because people wipe their hands on it. I know it might not be the most hygiene thing to do, but because wiping your hands with a towel after you wash your hands is allowed, as mentioned before, because it's not derech kibus. You're not washing the towel by putting the water on it. You're actually making the towel dirty, but the towel becomes wet enough, cold enough that you can put it on your forehead. That's another option you have, be not to add water on a towel on Shabbos.